Well, with us right now are a couple folks from the Roberts Rules Study Club. We have Diane Casey with us today, and we have Joan Milliman. Diane, welcome. You have not been on before that I'm aware of, right?
No.
So good to have you here today. Joan, you know,
Yeah.
here all the time.
Nice to be here.
Good to see you. We are talking about, as we go through this, and the times that you come on, there's usually one major topic that we go over. In this one, we are talking about the rules of debate, right? Mm-hmm. And we see this a lot on our boards, and quite often the phrase will come up, well, this isn't open for debate right now, or you know, it hasn't been properly introduced, or whatever it might be. So that's what we're going to go over with this. And the first slide, we have rules of debate, speech limits in debate. And before we go any further, quite often, you know, you hear the word debate and you think of the classic debate, mm-hmm. right? People going back and forth to people. This is a little bit different, am I right?
Right. Well, first of all, you have to prepare for the debate, and the debate doesn't come up until after a motion is on the floor. Mm-hmm. So it's been moved and seconded, and then everyone can talk about it for or against. So you do have a debate for or against the motion.
Yes.
So that's where the debate comes in.
Right, exactly. And what's interesting in here, you cannot save time or transfer the time to someone else. I've seen that done before.
Well, not here.
Yeah, but I have seen it over the years.
It's true.
In the meetings where people have come up and they'll go, well, I'm going to, you know, give my time to someone else who I know on the board wants to talk 6 minutes instead of 2 minutes, right? Mm. Yes, that has, over the years, that has happened. But that's not how it's supposed to be, am I right?
That's right. And Diane's going to tell you about the first rule of debate.
Okay.
Yes. So there are speech limits in a debate, mm-hmm. and according to Robert's rules, they allow you to speak twice on a motion.
Okay.
And also you can speak only for 10 minutes.
Okay.
Now, the transferring time is not allowed. However, you can use your excess time to have, you know, answer questions, have people ask questions.
Okay.
During that time.
All right. And on the next slide, preference in recognition to debate. And talk about this, the maker of the motion and the steps.
Well, normally, you know, the recognition is the first person to raise their hand, in this case, gets to speak first. The chair recognizes people in order. However, there are some exceptions, and the first exception is that the person who made the motion gets to speak first in defense of the motion. Mm-hmm. And then anyone who has not spoken at all, it would be a second choice if someone else had already spoken to the subject. And the third, the chair always tries to alternate for and against. Mm-hmm. If he happens to know how people feel about the motion. However, he can ask, are you for or against the motion? And then they have to claim which way they are. Right,
and that I've seen in the meetings over the years, where the chair will often go, well, first, let us know where you're standing here, and then speak. And I think above anything else, especially for the people who are watching that are not on the board, it clarifies where this person is standing.
Exactly.
And now they're going to explain why they've taken this stand, correct?
That's right, correct.
Yeah, and that's important. So, rules of debate, stick to the subject, stick to the topic, right? And that's the next slide.
It's always important to stay on topic, to stay with the current motion. If going off topic is not in order, mm-hmm. and the chairperson will probably tell you that.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that's up to the chairperson to tell you that, right?
Yes.
All right.
They run the meeting.
Rules of debate, number 4, debate issues, not personalities.
Right. You can't call people liars to their face, or you can't, so you simply talk about the subject, you know, what the motion's about, what its results might be if we do this, mm-hmm. if you're against it or if you're for it. but you can't attack or question the motives of another member.
Okay.
That's very important because we have in the past had some of that. But
Okay. So that's
again,
something
it's
you
up
can't
to the
do.
chair to control it and say that's out of order. It's not appropriate.
Okay. Now, on the rules of debate number 5, formalities that avoid personalities, right?
Right. It's much better to talk to the chair. That's one of the rules. They want you to talk to the chair, not directly to members. So you might say, Mr. President, the last speaker's final point doesn't really make sense.
Right. And this is something, by the way, and let me interrupt here, that's not done a lot.
No,
Quite
not
often,
done at all.
as Joan will know, she's being on the boards, that is the one thing here that kind of gets a lot of times not recognized, not followed, and people start to debate across.
That's right.
Crosstalk.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And you're not supposed to do that.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
And it's difficult sometimes to avoid it. The chair has got to step in and say,
Yeah.
speak to the chair, or in some way make it objective instead of get the personalities out of it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Even if you're in agreement with that person, you're supposed to wait your turn, be recognized, and
Yeah, we
Yeah.
always say first names, and you're not supposed to do that.
Say previous speaker.
Interesting. The next slide, motions that are and are not debatable.
Okay, this is
And it might be a little hard to see on the screen.
it
because
might
there's a
be,
lot
but this
here,
is a replica of a part of a chart.
Okay.
At
got
the
it.
end of the large book here, the gray pages in the back have these charts.
Okay.
And they're nice because all the motions are listed in order, alphabetical order. And for each motion, you know whether it's debatable, amendable, and what kind of a vote it takes to pass it. So it's either a majority or a 2/3 vote. Now, if you are moving to adjourn, for example, you're either going to adjourn or you're not. So it's not debatable and it's not amendable. And the vote would be, in this case, a majority vote.
Right.
And if people don't want to adjourn yet, we go on.
Okay.
Another one like that, when you close debate down there at the bottom, again, if a motion is made to close debate or call the previous question, you're either going to close it or you're not. And it's not debatable, not amendable, but in this case, because it takes a 2/3
Right.
vote, 2/3 of the people have to vote for it, because it's changing your rights
Yeah, exactly.
to continue.
Okay.
So that's why.
So the next slide, limit or extend limits of debate, right?
Well, like Joan was saying, the general rule of Robert's Rules is that you can get up and talk twice on a
Right.
motion and for 10 minutes. But if we were to have that rule here, it would go on forever. So making that choice to, well, actually that's in the bylaws that they have chosen to limit
Exactly.
those times. But if they were going to make it a different time, an organization would move that the debate on the pending motion be limited to one speech of 3 minutes.
Okay.
And this is not debatable. Either you want it or you don't. You do or
Okay.
you don't. And it takes a 2/3 vote
Okay.
in order to make that happen.
Okay, and you could change that any way you want.
Yeah, you could have it
Right.
longer, shorter.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and the next slide, immediately close debate.
Yes, quite often the debates go on, and someone gets, when you've had enough, you can, as a person on the board, for example, you can move the previous question. The question is whether or not this motion will pass. That's the question. So if a person moves to have that done, since it again is limiting someone's time to debate, it'll take a 2/3 vote.
Okay.
However, we can avoid just making that motion when things slow down and the chair realizes that people have just about finished. The chair can say, "Are you ready for the vote?" And they might say yes, but you could also say, "Is there any more debate?" And wait for a second. Hearing none, all those in favor of, and
Okay.
state the motion. and go ahead and take the vote as usual.
Okay, so after that, you have what's listed here is the secretary duties, right?
Right, and this is an entirely different subject because that's what's going to be
Yeah.
presented Saturday. But we threw this in because, you know, this is the next part of our
And
talk.
so, the next slide is secretary duties, and,
So
and
we've
this is part of the talk that you're going to be giving. Okay.
So we've completed the debate section.
Okay.
So before the meeting, there is a call or a notice of the meeting. So the president or the secretary will send out a notice with the information about the time, the date, and the location
Okay.
of the meeting. For instance, you know, I just received one for the Roberts Rules Club's Study Club on April 8th at 9 a.m. at the Key Club in Laguna Woods at Gate 10.
Okay.
So that will be the meeting. And the secretary also prepares the agenda based on the previous meeting's minutes.
Okay.
And Joan is going to talk about how Laguna Woods prepares the agenda.
The boards here have an agenda prep meeting prior
Right,
to the
they
meeting.
do.
And it will include a prepared agenda, but at that time, we will discuss whether we want to add or change the agenda before
Okay.
the meeting, and the whole board participates in it at that time.
Okay. And then at the meeting, what the secretary does, presents previous minutes and so on, right?
Yeah, Joan is also going to.
That's
Oh,
okay.
do I get to do that too? Yes. In normal meetings, sometimes the secretary will read the previous meetings. In our case, our previous meetings are printed, and so everyone's had a chance to read them and make
Right. corrections.
During the meeting, the secretary records what motions are made, how they come out, whether they're passed or not, and they also assist in voting. This is not a transcription. They are not supposed to be taking word for word
Right,
comments
exactly.
from everybody, and some people get bogged down with that, and it's terribly difficult to read minutes like that.
Right.
In fact, they aren't good minutes. So
Yes,
we just
exactly.
want to know what actions took place and what the results are of the meeting.
Okay, and after the meeting, the secretary duties.
So the secretary will prepare the draft of the meeting so that it can be voted on at that next meeting. And they'll have separate paragraphs for motions that were made and actions that were taken. And then they will
Okay.
also show any secondary motions if
Next
they're
slide.
postponed.
Okay.
Next slide?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the next slide, if
Okay.
they could. Yeah,
So,
after the meeting. Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
Right, okay. If they're postponed to the next meeting,
Okay.
they'll discuss that. And like Joan was saying, it's not a transcript. All the things that happen in the meeting are not in the minutes. And so then there's this, the last paragraph is the time for adjournment, like when the meeting was adjourned, and the secretary's signature.
Okay, very good. And, you know, here with the boards here, does the board secretary, you're actually, when you, and I want to clarify, you have the board secretary, but are you also talking the person that does this is the administrative secretary?
We have a corporate secretary.
Right, and they do this.
And the secretary,
Okay.
the corporate secretary's taking everything down on
Right,
on the
okay.
computer.
Right.
And the board secretary is also writings, and then they get together and
Okay.
and they make the minutes up, and then they present the agenda for the next meeting.
Right,
also.
so it's a collaboration,
It
where
is.
in some cases, you just have a board secretary that's
Correct.
doing all this. Okay. All right, and you already mentioned this, Diane, that coming up this weekend, 9 o'clock in the Key Club room at the Towers, there is the next Robert's Rules meeting, right?
Yes.
Okay, and if
Believe me,
people
it's
want...
exciting.
Yeah, next, if you want information, Mike Straziuso, there's the contact at 949-830-8717. And people can call Mike and get information. And again, 9 o'clock over at the Towers,
Great.
right?
Yes.
Everyone's welcome.
All right,
Yes.
very good. Good to see you again, Joan. As always, Diane, nice to
Pleasure.
meet
Okay,
you.
great.
We'll see you again.
Okay, great,
Take care.
thank you.
And we will be right back.
Okay.
Well.